Alright folks, so it's a bit of a service time on the CBF 1000. I've had this bike 11 years now, so should know it by now. Anyway, the reason I've kept it is because it's a good bike. I've got a video on that somewhere, but anyway, oil change. So the first thing to do is put a bowl underneath it. I've got a bowl there, look what I've used. And then undo the sump drain, which is just there, which is between the exhaust pipes, right on the bottom of the engine. Simple as, it's front facing. As usual, the inspector's arrived to check on affairs. He usually takes a check-in on things. So one little thought about when you've undone the drain bolt under here, the oil does spurt out at quite an angle, so you need to make sure your bowl is placed forward, or you've got a big enough bowl, because it spurts out about, I don't know, 9 or 10 inches forward of the drain hole at first. So that's just a little thought. There's a little cover here held on with a couple of small bolts. They're really easy to undo. This plastic cover comes off, and there's a oil filter underneath. I think these are 8mm, little 8mm bolts. Yeah, 8mm. So 2 of those. Then once you've got those little bolts out, this plastic cover comes off. It's just a stone guard really, I think, to stop the stones flying up from the front wheel and piercing the fairly thin metal on the oil filter. I'm using these hi-flo filtro replacement filters. Obviously they're not the Honda part, but I've used them for years now and I find them really good quality. And I happen to have a couple kicking around. This is the standard one, and I've got a racing one as well here. Not that I'm planning on doing any racing, but the problem with this one I discovered after I bought it is that with this nut type attachment on the top, you can't fit. Ooh, helicopter. It's a yellow one going to the hospital. You can't fit this plastic cover over that little nut, so we'll be opting for this standard one today. So when I was a lad, if these wouldn't free up, because they can get a bit stiff sometimes, I would do a terrible thing and stick a screwdriver right through it with a hammer and then ply it around. Undo it by using the leverage from a screwdriver stuck through it, which I don't recommend. But you can buy all kinds of tools. A common one is this chain filter removing chain device thing, which is simple enough. Don't know if you can see that. Now let me put it down. See that? So you can buy those, but I invested in the correct tool. So this is an oil filter removal tool. It's slightly notched on the inner edge, and there's matching kind of notching on the filter housing, so you just push it on, and then it's got a 1/2 inch drive, or it'll take a big socket. I don't know what that is. I guess it's about 20mm, 19mm probably, something like that, if you want to do it that way. You just stick your socket handle in there and undo it, and it cost me much less than a tenner. I think it was about seven or £8, and the job's just so easy every time. So if you're going to be doing it regularly, I'd say get one of these things. Just a little thought about this, which is there is a couple of oil still in here, so you do need your bowl underneath it when you slacken this off. Just like that. Now when you refit an oil filter, you just put a little film of oil on this rubber seal before you put it together, and that helps it seal up right. Well, that's a little quality touch. I noticed when I took the wrapper off this, the rubber seal was pre-greased. So this look is for the Harry Faber School of Easy French. Ne pas utiliser comme point de levage. Do not jack up. And I don't think they're referring to heroin addicts there. I think it means don't lift the bike up on the oil filter. Look at that, the wife will be pleased because I haven't spilled any oil on the driveway at all. And actually my wife doesn't care at all whether I spill oil on the driveway. And then just getting rid of your waste oil, it's important, isn't it, really, to put it, you know, in the correct recycling facility, as they say these days. So what I do, I just use old containers, and I fill them up, and then when I've got a few, or I'm going to the dump, I'll just take them to the dump and recycle them there. So refitting all this is just the reversal of removal. You put your drain plug in there, and then you put your filter back on here, and then you fill up with oil in the filler hole there. On this bike I put in around about 3 litres. Of course every bike's a little bit different, but something like that. A 4 litre pack will be enough. And then you keep an eye on the sight glass here. It's got a lower level and an upper level, and the level should be between the two. Obviously you aim to sort of be at the upper level. Once you've filled it up to the upper level or thereabouts, start the bike and run it. Check that everything's not leaking, and then turn it off, let it settle a bit, check the levels again and just top up as necessary. And after you've run it for your first run or two, then just check the drain plug is still torqued up okay and not dripping. That's about it. As far as the adjustment torque settings for tightening up the drain plug, they're different for each bike, but to be honest, I find I've never had any problem doing them up what I call wrist tight, which is where you tighten it down till it's kind of firm, and then just add about a quarter of a turn with a little bit of pressure. I guess you have to sort of have some sort of feel for nuts and bolts maybe to do that, but that's how I do it. It's never given me a problem. One thing about this oil is it's got quite a red hue to it when it goes in. So you can see on the sight glass there, you know, we're getting somewhere, but what will happen is when we start the bike, that'll fill up all the nooks and crannies and the filter, and the level will drop, and we'll need to top it up. So another little obvious tip is that it's always good to have a proper wipe around with kitchen towel. Really make sure it's clean, so that you can see if any drips or leaks appear much more easily than if there's old sludge and mess around there. Just a little thought about oil choice. So in this CBF 1000, it's a 2009 CBF 1000 FA. I've always put Castrol Power 1 Racing in it. So this oil, by the way, is different to Castrol Power 1. So Castrol Power 1 is a semi-synthetic, and this Castrol Power 1 Racing is a fully synthetic. So what I'd say is, you know, people have their own choices. I've always used this, and the engine's always been great. It's a really under-stressed engine in the bike, though. I think it was originally based on the Fireblade engine, but they've taken about, I don't know, 70 odd horsepower out of it compared to the blade, and retuned it for, you know, more mid-range and what have you. But anyway, this is what I use. I like Motul and Silkaline as well, but I think you'd be hard pushed to buy a really bad oil these days. I mean, the quality control is is better, provided you know, you buy a recognised brand. I doubt you'd go wrong. Some people say that on much older bikes, like my Kawasaki KZ is 43 years old, so in that one I used to put mineral oil in it. Now I put semi-synthetic, and that's been fine, but I avoid a fully synthetic in that because some people say they're basically too slippy and you can get clutch slip. I don't know if that's on a wives' tale or true, but anyway, I put Motul semi-synthetic in that, and it's fine. And this is what I use for the CBF. And one final thought about grade. So this is 1030, which is what's recommended by Honda. But when you look at their temperature gradient chart, I think 1040 would be just as good. In fact, I would say if you're being a real perfectionist, you'd put 1030 in the winter and 1040 in the summer.